No way. I'm eating a burrito. I had him like, oh shit.
Is that?
Yeah, it's an old guy.
It's an old guy. Old guy.
Don't be cruel to a heart that's true. I don't want no other love. Baby, it's just you I'm thinking of.
So these Busch boys have a way of getting punched, I've noticed.
It's one of their skills, one of their many talents.
Kyle Busch, Richard Childress.
Yeah.
Let's go over the incident first of all, Buzz.
What do you mean? The incident. Richard Childress kicked Kyle Busch's ass.
First of all, didn't Richard Childress say to Kyle Busch after Darlington, don't mess with my stuff? Don't mess with my equipment. Don't be hitting on my stuff.
You touch my stuff.
Exactly.
And I'll kill you.
Isn't that what he said?
Kyle Busch did after the truck
Barely
race. But
touch his stuff.
But he did touch his stuff.
Barely touch his stuff.
Well, but I think it's important because I think it's important to note that
I agree.
this has been cumulative. It's not like this one incident set Richard Childress off.
I agree.
And we have said time and time again, Kyle Busch doesn't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. He has lost the right to the benefit of the doubt. So over time, when Kyle Busch continues to touch Richard Childress's stuff, it just builds up. And this, what seemed to be a relatively minor incident, was the straw that broke the proverbial camel's back.
That's right. And it was a relatively minor incident. This kind of thing goes on all the time. But I think you're right. When you got a guy who's taking off his watch and his ring and stuff, and he's headed towards you, he kind of knows there's going to be a physical altercation when he gets there. And that's what happened.
Should Kyle have fought back?
Well, I think Kyle handled him. No, I'm not going to say yes. I mean, I think Kyle Busch, he doesn't want to get in some big thing with Richard Childress. There's nothing good can come of it. Nothing good can come. Either he gets his ass beat by the old guy or he beats up an old guy. And it's a no-win situation.
It's like the Alex Rodriguez.
No, it's Pedro Martinez and Don Zimmer.
That's what I was thinking of, right.
So, I mean, I think there's not much Kyle can do in that situation. So by not doing anything, I don't. And NASCAR basically said, I mean, Mike Helton said afterwards, he was addressing the issue about probation. And he said Kyle didn't violate his probation because he didn't do anything.
But he did with the truck at the end of the race. I would not have had an issue if NASCAR had said, yes, Kyle violated probation by the way he handled his truck on track after the race.
No.
I'm not saying they should have, but if they had gone that direction, I wouldn't have had a big
Here's the other thing. The other thing. And Mark Garrow said this to me on our Daily Rowdy podcast, which you can hear today at rowdy.com, that there's just a genuine dislike, a very strong antipathy that a lot of the RCR folks, including Richard Childress, including Kevin Harvick, and including Clint Boyer, he said, Jeff Burton, he's more diplomatic than that. He doesn't get caught up in that stuff. But these guys genuinely don't like Kyle Busch. So it's visceral. It's personal. So you can say they should be professional all they want, but that kind of stuff just pisses them off, and it gets them mad. And it got Richard Childress mad, and he said, I ain't taking this anymore. I don't care how small it is.
I think the court of public opinion is definitely going to come down on RC's side, unless you are an 18 fan. I think 48 fans, 88 fans, every other fan is going to come down on the side of RC just because.
And, you know, Kurt Busch was talking about the incident with Jimmy Spencer a few years ago where Jimmy Spencer punched him, and he didn't say, but he implied that changed his attitude a little bit. He said, I don't want to be the kind of guy who's always yapping at people and getting in people's face just because this doesn't work out great all the time.
Well, and you kind of get a sense that Kyle has already started that process of changing.
Well, on the heels of the speeding ticket and all the rest of it. Yeah. I mean, that's why I think the way he handled this incident.
It's been a rough couple of weeks
for
Kyle
Busch. It has been
a
rough couple of weeks for Kyle Busch. And the way he handled this, maybe he's paying penance for some of the things he's done in the past, and he's just going to have to pay it.
I think he
and he's just
going
to, sometimes in life, you just got to take it. Even if it's not fair, sometimes you just got to take it. I think he's at that point now, and I think he's realizing that. So maybe from here on in, he can kind of take the high road. He seems to more or less have taken the high road here.
I think he's trying to, and I think he tried to. I think he did after the speeding penalty. Not speeding penalty, speeding ticket.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to note that RC is old school, and this is the way things used to be handled in the day. When Richard Childress was a driver and in the early days of his ownership career.
Right. You had to settle things
this
is
way. How things were dealt with. You'd go,
and there were no cameras on this incident.
You'd go behind the hauler and you'd punch it out.
Pretty much you'd had an understanding when things were said and done. Here's the other question before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
NASCAR is going to probably come out with some kind of penalty.
Yeah, you got to.
I would think financial penalty and probation would be most likely, but they said they considered tossing Richard Childress out of the race, out of the racetrack.
Yeah, and they didn't because they wanted that organization to have some leadership. And I was thinking, do you take away owner points, but from which car would you take them is the problem.
I don't think you're going to do that, and you'd probably, if you're going to do it, you'd do it in the truck series because that's when the incident happened. So I think the question I have is, is there going to be anything more than a fine and probation?
They're going to make
Richard
revert back to his natural hair color.
Oh, I don't know. That would not be good.
I know. It would be kind of scary. Who knows what it is
I
at
don't
this
think
point.
so is the answer to my own question. I don't think we're going to see anything more than a fine and probation right now.
I don't know, man. It was fisticuffs. It was a punch. It was punches.
I know.
I would think they need to come down stronger than that, just because it was.
Could be.
it
See,
was
the
a
reason I
physical
wouldn't
altercation.
the reason I wouldn't rule it out is because Helton said, we really considered it, but there were circumstances that led us to say no, we're not going to do that. So I could see him doing it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's been our discussion
Yes, it
about
has.
the Kyle Busch, Richard Childress incident. All right. That has been our discussion of the Richard Childress, Kyle Busch incident. If you want to join in on the conversation, you can comment right down there.
Right down there. Yeah, right down there where he said.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.